You son of a bitch! Motherfucker! Let me out of here! I'm not insane. I'm not insane. Fuck it. I'm not insane. Do you read Sutter Cane? And with each step, our narrator quietly yet confidently acknowledges the hundreds and thousands of silent voices waiting for direction. Which movies to view and which movies to skip. Silently their screams deafen in the narrator's ears, all asking the same question. When the hell is the Scream 2 review? Quietly and yet confidently again, the narrator acknowledges all the silent screams by facing them and saying, "No worries everyone, the Scream 2 review will be released on..." Oh hey everybody, what's going on? In the Mouth of Madness, baby. So before I even get into my thoughts on this awesome John Carpenter film, I need to tell you guys I am not doing this alone. Lee from Drum Dums and Durbin from Durbania are also releasing their reviews at the same exact time as mine. So as soon as you get done watching this one, their videos are live on their channel. Drum Dums, I sent this to him for a birthday present. First time he's ever seen this movie before, so really looking forward to seeing what his thoughts are. Also, the first time seeing this movie is Durbin from Durbania, but Durbin is going to be doing a theological analysis of this movie, so that's going to be really interesting to see how he ties in all of the themes and elements of In the Mouth of Madness into theology. So check out both of those videos, guys, and hit the subscribe button on those channels before you leave. So In the Mouth of Madness tells the story of an insurance fraud investigator trying to hunt down the location of a missing famed horror writer, but the closer he gets to finding the location of Sutter Cane, the closer he is to the realization that the writings of Sutter Cane just might be real. So if you guys saw my top 5 John Carpenter films that I did with Brian Lomax over at Brian Lomax Movie Talk, it is no secret to you, where as soon as you click on this review, you know this is one of my favorite John Carpenter films of all time, and honestly one of my favorite horror films of all time, and a very underrated horror film. Nobody ever seems to talk about this damn movie. Well, that stops today. A lot of people call this the last great John Carpenter film. After this, you get into a long era of kind of what people would call mediocre to bad films by one of the greatest horror directors of all time. So in a lot of ways, In the Mouth of Madness is kind of like a closing of the legacy of John Carpenter. But why do I love this movie so much? What are the positives? What are the negatives? Is there any negatives? Let's get into it. The positives of In the Mouth of Madness. Let's go ahead and just start right off the bat talking about the man himself, John Carpenter, and his direction, as well as his score. We'll get into that as well. John Carpenter is just the fucking master. I mean, this guy makes horror movies like no other director in the horror industry. I mean, In the Mouth of Madness just brings all these different themes together, from Stephen King references to even kind of nods to a lot of his writing, to classic tales of good and evil, to monsters, almost H.P. Lovecraftian references in there, throwing in some commentary on how society views elite figures and writers and celebrities, all the way into a little bit of theology in there with God complexes and what does it mean to be God? Was there anything before God? All of this stuff in one movie.
Kane disappeared 2 months ago without a trace. He's the guy that writes horror books.
You can forget about Stephen King. Kane outsells them all.
And from the very opening sequence of this movie, with the fucking title screen and the badass John Carpenter In the Mouth of Madness score, which is one of my favorite scores by him. It's a lot more rock and metal than most of his scores. The movie just gets you pumped right from the beginning. You start to see this book getting printed out, go ahead and foreshadowing what this In the Mouth of Madness title actually means. You get the score that's just ramping it up with that metal-ass guitar, and you know that you are in for a treat. And it starts basically at the end of the story, and then he Tarantinos it and takes you back to the beginning and shows you how Sam Neill and his character got into this insane asylum. And from the way that he builds the character of Trent, a very unlikely protagonist for a horror film, an insurance fraud investigator, all the way to building up just the deity-like concept of Sutter Cane. Who is Sutter Cane? What is Sutter Cane? Do you read Sutter Cane? Getting into the town of Hobb's End, you start to get into the Stephen King references, this small little New England town that feels like it's forgotten, like it's on no map anywhere in the history of America, and yet there's citizens there that seem like they're just separated from reality, from the rest of the world, from the rest of the country. What the fuck is going on in this town? The way that he shows the heightened paranoia and the heightened delusionism of the character of Trent in this town of Hobb's End by de-evolving all of the people around him into these monsters and just hideous looking creatures, all the way to the final act whenever you actually had this huge sequence of all these animatronic creatures and practical effects that is just the bread and butter of John Carpenter. It's the one thing that he does better than anybody else, which is practical effects. All of that shit is in here. For all intents and purposes, this movie is like a John Carpenter fanatic's dream. And then getting into the actual character of Trent, again, very unlikely person that you would have as a protagonist for your movie, just an insurance fraud claim guy. And it's all brought to life by Sam Neill. And Sam Neill is also a guy that just deserves a lot more credit than he gets for what he's done in the horror world. I've never seen the movie with The Omen that he was in, but he was Damien, for Christ's sake. You get this movie, you get Event Horizon, where he's creepy as hell in that, Daybreakers. I mean, this dude, when he wants to go dark and he wants to go scary and just dive headfirst into horror, he is awesome. And his character is very likable. From the very beginning, you want this guy to win because he's just so suave and cool. It's almost like film noir, watching this guy just verbally annihilate somebody who is trying to fraudulently put some claims out there for his company to pay out.
I know this book will drive people crazy. Let's hope so. The movie comes out next month.
Sam Neill walking around with a cigarette, just calling bullshit on every single detail of this person's story. That scene alone, right there in the beginning, you're just like, I want this fucking guy to lead my movie. And luckily for you, he does. And he's just great at this story of this guy who just calls bullshit on everything, doesn't believe anything until he sees it proven to be reality, thrust into this situation where reality is no longer in the fucking cards. And in a lot of ways, he speaks for the audience, because as you're going through this journey, you're obviously calling bullshit on certain things. Is this in his head? Is this all a hoax? Is this some elaborate kind of, promotional scheme going on? Is he really descending into hell? What the hell's going on? And all these questions that is arising in your head when you watch this movie for the first time, Sam Neill and his character of Trent is having the same exact dilemma in his head. And I just love how confident and how cool he is about his attitude about, no, I'm not. Even when he sees monsters right in front of him, he's like, this is bullshit. Something's going on here. This is not reality. Now, talking about the Sutter Cane character, which is a minor character as far as screen time, but a major character as far as presence and as far as importance to the story of this movie. This is the guy who has written all of these novels. This is the guy who has set these characters on this journey. This is the guy that all of the horror fanatics out there just salivating for his next book has just built him up to be this godlike figure. And in a lot of ways, it's a commentary on figures like Stephen King or even John Carpenter himself. And so how he sees certain fans just kind of, bowing down to certain figures because they enjoy their forms of media or their forms of creativity. In a lot of ways, it's just John Carpenter kind of putting the mirror in front of you and showing a reflection of you as a fan and saying, please don't be like this. And the portrayal of that character makes it even better and just hammers that theme home even more. Played by the actor Jürgen Prochnow, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Don't be a stickler in the comment section if I fuck that up. But anyway, the way that he plays Sutter Cane is not like this really maniacal figure, this guy that's just out for blood or just typical villain type things. He's a guy who's like, look, my writing is the word. I am now God. You are all characters in my world now. Sorry, that's just how it is. And that's the attitude he portrays it as, and it's just such a nice breath of fresh air for a villain. Typically in movies like this, when they're building up this guy for this big reveal, this is the guy we have to get, this is the guy that's creating all this evil, there's always a mustache twirling scheme or a long monologue about how I'm gonna take over the world little by little and you're helpless to stop me. And it's just such a change of pace for a character like that to be your main villain, your main antagonist, your main source of evil for a movie that's just like, hey, I write kick-ass novels. People believe in it so much that my books sell more than the Bible. Sorry, that's reality.
Trent stood at the edge of the rip, stared into the illimitable gulf of the unknown.
Now I want to talk about the town of Hobb's End because I love the setting in this movie as well. And a lot of it's because it pays a lot of homage and a lot of winks to the Stephen King type setup, which I'm a huge fan of those movies. Haven't read very many of his books, I know, but this is a movie review channel, so you should expect that. But just a small little New England town that's separated from everything else, that something sinister is brewing beneath the surface. I mean, that is classic Stephen King stuff. When you get into movies like Silver Bullet, or even movies like Stand By Me to a degree that's much more grounded. I mean, it's just this New England evil small town feel that he injects into this movie that just puts a smile on my face every time I watch it. Because I know I'm watching a John Carpenter movie, but it just feels like John Carpenter and Stephen King got together and made this special little thing called In the Mouth of Madness. And that just scratches many itches that I have as a horror fan. And one of the main itches that this movie scratches very well is just tension. This movie has tension throughout because you have no idea what the fuck is going on from the opening frame. I mean, it starts grounded enough, introduces you to the character of Trent. We're in this insane asylum and he's pleading to everybody, I'm not insane. And everybody else is like, whatever, dude, you're fucking nuts. Just sit in there. And you're wondering, what's going on to make Sam Neill feel like he's the only voice of reason in a room full of people that think that he's a fucking maniac? You go back to the beginning, you find out why little by little, and every single layer that this movie peels back just brings up more what the fuck questions. I have no idea what's going on. Where is this heading? Who is Sutter Cane? What is going on in Hobb's End? Is Sam Neill insane? Is this all a dream? What the fuck? And it's that question that you have. It's that unknown factor of what is reality, what is not reality, what is going on. Is there an evil presence here? Is Sam Neill insane? All of these unanswered questions throughout the runtime building up to this third act that keeps the tension very pliable because everything around every corner is a complete mystery and there is no point in this movie where you have seen it all. As soon as you feel like, okay, that's as crazy it's going to get, it gets crazier. You see people walking backwards with their heads turned around like a fucking spider. You see old women with tentacles chopping a dude with an axe. All kinds of crazy shit. Even simple scenes like trying to drive out of this town in the darkness where all you can see is the lightly lit road by the headlights that seems like it just goes for an endless infinity. And you get the guy that's driving past him in a bicycle with just that sound of this card in his bicycle. Just that alone will unnerve you. Just the simplest scene in this movie will chill you to your bone if you are in for the ride.
Kane's writing has been known to have an effect on his readers.
See this? It's a map.
This whole thing has been staged.
You just get out.
This is not reality.
It's all happening for real, Trent.
And without spoiling it, I'll say that this movie's third act, the finale, the culmination of everything, how it wraps everything up, I love it. It's like the perfect ending for a movie like this. It brings everything full circle. It totally just goes balls to the wall and just has one of the biggest statements to make as far as the themes that John Carpenter is going for. And it leaves just enough ambiguity in there and just enough questions left kind of lingering and enough threads that aren't completely spelled out for you as a viewer that even years later, I've been watching this movie for almost 20 years, even 20 years later, rewatching this movie, there are still things that I question. There's still things that I uncover. There's still things that I'll see and I'm like, I wonder if that points it in another direction that maybe I wasn't going. There's so much room for rewatchability and for just expanding your understanding of what John Carpenter is going for with this movie that it's brilliance to me. It's 100% fucking brilliance. Just to me, it's a movie that just has so much to say with such a simple storyline put in front of it, with so much homage paid, so many different things that you can get out of this, so many things that'll appeal to so many different viewers, and yet it's just all wrapped up in this badass package that feels like it's out to break all the rules. And we all know what the number one rule is, by the way. Never, ever, ever throw chips at the driver. Now, as far as any negatives in the Mouth of Madness, I really only have one, and it's not even so much a negative, it's just something that's always bugged me slightly. As brilliant as John Carpenter is with practical effects, And as much effort and time and money and creativity and blood, sweat, and tears that obviously went into this sequence at the very end of the movie with all of these monsters following Sam Neill down this hallway, you barely get to see any of the monsters. It's in quick little flashes, you know, it's like a strobe light effect. You get to see spots here and there. You get one wide shot that shows all of them walking towards them for about a second. And I never quite understood if that was a creative choice on John Carpenter's part to keep the mystery of what these monsters were, or if this was a budgetary constraint, or if they didn't actually look as good as you would assume that they look with these quick flashes, so it was kind of hiding some of the mistakes. I'm not sure. But for a payoff to finally get a look at the old ones, the ancient ones that are coming back to reclaim the earth, and you only get little snippets of them, to me, every time I watch the movie, I'm always like, I wish there was an extended scene I could see where you could really just get to see all of the awesome animatronics, or at least what looked to be awesome animatronics. So that's really my only negative with this movie, is just that small nitpick of, I want to see more of those damn monsters. But beyond that, guys, I have nothing but amazing things to say about this movie. I think that it is the perfect culmination to the unofficial Apocalypse Trilogy. I think it's one of John Carpenter's greatest films. Obviously, it was in my top 5. I think it's one of the best and most underappreciated horror films ever. I love everything about In the Mouth of Madness. So please, if you are somebody that has not seen this movie, take my advice and change that immediately. If you're a fan of John Carpenter, Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, Sam Neill, any of that, or if you just want to see a kick-ass horror movie that breaks all of the rules, has so much to say, and you have no idea where the hell it is going until it gets there, cannot recommend anything more than In the Mouth of Madness. So once you're done with this review, immediately go out and buy it. So what do you guys think of In the Mouth of Madness? Are you as fond of this movie as me? Are there certain things that you dislike about it that I didn't touch on? Feel free to put that down in the comment section below. And is the Apocalypse Trilogy by John Carpenter one of the greatest trilogies of all time? Put all your thoughts of that down below as well. Be sure to check out Drumdums and Durbania. Their links for their videos are going to be down in the comment or the video description below. Please, as soon as you're done with this, check out those videos. Really looking forward to seeing what different perspectives those guys have on this classic movie. Share this video, hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out my social media links, those are also down in the video description below, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spreadshirt for Cody Leach t-shirts and other merchandise, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help it grow and get cool exclusive content for patron eyes only, such as Blu-ray digital copy codes that I give away almost every single week for the Blu-rays that I buy, and the ability to choose videos for me to do in patron requests. That's all patron exclusive, guys, so check that out down below. And if you guys want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here. And remember, reality is not what it used to be.